All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about a collision course between two absolute giants of technology, Bitcoin and the mind-bending world of quantum computing. So, the big question is, what happens when one of these incredibly powerful forces is turned against the other?
To really get a sense of what's at stake, you just have to look at this number. We're talking about roughly $650 billion. That's the estimated value of all the Bitcoin out there that's currently vulnerable to being straight up stolen by a powerful enough quantum computer. It's a staggering amount of money.
And look, this isn't some far-off academic what-if scenario we're discussing. What we're really talking about is the potential for a high-tech heist on a scale the world has never seen before. So how on earth could this even happen?
Okay, so at its heart, Bitcoin's security is all about a simple promise. It's built on something called elliptic curve cryptography. Now, you can think of it like a perfect one-way street. It's super easy for your private key, the thing you keep secret, to generate your public key, which is basically your address. But trying to go backwards, trying to figure out the private key from the public one, for a normal computer, that's designed to be practically impossible. We're talking it would take a supercomputer trillions of years to even make a dent.
And this is where the entire game changes. See, quantum computers aren't just faster versions of the computer on your desk. They operate on a completely different set of rules. They're specifically designed to chew through exactly these kinds of impossible math problems for breakfast. For a quantum computer, that one-way street, well, it suddenly becomes a two-way superhighway. And that threatens the very foundation of Bitcoin security.
So, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How would an attacker actually pull this off? Where is the weak link? What is Bitcoin's glass jaw?
Now, the really wild part about this whole thing is the timing. This kind of attack has to happen in a very, very specific window of opportunity. So when you go to send some Bitcoin, your public key gets broadcast to the whole network, but it's only really exposed for a short period, usually about 10 minutes, before your transaction gets locked into a block. The attacker has to see that transaction, use their quantum computer to instantly figure out your private key, and then forge a new transaction to steal your funds, all before your original one gets confirmed. It is an incredibly high-stakes race against the clock.
And the tool they've used for this job is called Shor's algorithm. You can pretty much think of it as the skeleton key for modern cryptography. It's the one thing that quantum computers can do that classical computers just can't. It's specifically designed to break the kind of math that protects not just Bitcoin, but a huge chunk of the internet as we know.
So, you might be thinking, is all Bitcoin equally at risk? Well, not exactly. As it turns out, certain user habits from the past have created a pool of very tempting, high-value targets. And this is a really crucial point. Of the nearly 6.5 million Bitcoin that are considered vulnerable, a massive 70% of them are at risk for one simple reason. People reused their addresses. See, normally, your public key is hidden. But if you reuse an address, its public key is exposed on the blockchain forever. That turns that tiny 10-minute risk window into a permanent sitting duck vulnerability.
This chart really tells the story. Back in the early days of Bitcoin, reusing addresses was just what people did. And even though it's way less common now, all of that past behavior has left a permanent, unchangeable record of exposed public keys on the blockchain. These are what you'd call long-range targets. An attacker doesn't have to race the clock with these. They can just take their sweet time cracking them whenever they get their hands on a powerful quantum computer.
So, who exactly does this affect? Well, the biggest targets are the early adopters. We're talking Satoshi-era coins that are often in older, more vulnerable address types. But it's also a huge problem for big exchanges and institutions that might have used addresses for cold storage. And of course, there are all those coins that everyone thinks are lost forever. If they're in one of these exposed addresses, they're basically a jackpot waiting for the first person with a quantum key.
Which, of course, leads us to the trillion-dollar question. When? When does this threat actually become a reality? And believe me, the answer to that is the subject of a massive debate among the smartest people in the field.
On one side of the ring, you've got the urgent view. This is championed by people like Ethereum's founder, Vitalik Buterin, and top researchers at IBM. They're looking at the speed of progress and warning that a breakthrough could be just 5 to 10 years away. But then, on the other side, you have the more conservative view. This is held by investment banks and other researchers who point to the absolutely monumental engineering challenges that are still left. They say we're probably looking at more like 15 to 30 years. The real takeaway here? Nobody knows for sure. There is zero consensus.
Okay, so with this massive, uncertain threat looming over everything, what is the Bitcoin community actually doing? Can the network even be upgraded to defend itself?
This quote just perfectly nails the central dilemma, especially when it comes to all those millions of vulnerable, maybe lost coins. If we do nothing, the first group to build a quantum computer basically gets rewarded with a massive Bitcoin windfall. It creates this huge, secret arms race to be the first to crack the code.
And this leads to two totally different schools of thought. First, there's the burn approach. The idea here is to roll out a network upgrade that just makes all those vulnerable coins unspendable. It's basically like fixing a bug in the code to protect people's property. The other option, which some call the steal approach, is to just do nothing. Let the heist happen. This path rewards the winner of the quantum race with a history-making prize. It's a real philosophical battle between protecting the past and rewarding the future.
The good news is, developers aren't just sitting around waiting. Recognizing all this uncertainty, they're actually preparing for both possibilities. It's a dual-track strategy. They're working on a quick and dirty contingency plan that could be deployed in a couple of years if things get serious, while also mapping out a much bigger, more comprehensive overhaul to make the entire network quantum-resistant over the next 7 years or so.
And this isn't just talk either. We're already seeing concrete proposals, like something called BIP 360. This is a specific plan to create a new type of address that basically patches the most immediate vulnerability. It's a crucial first line of defense, and it paves the way for a future where the whole network is fully quantum-proof.
So it all really comes down to this. Bitcoin's entire existence is built on trust. Not trust in a person or a company, but trust in math. And the quantum threat is a direct attack on the certainty of that math. The race is officially on, not just for scientists to build a quantum computer, but for Bitcoin to evolve fast enough to defend itself before that day comes. And it leaves us all with this fundamental question about what the future of trust even looks like in a quantum world.